Mia's hands shook. We have to find Chris. We can't just leave him down there. Daniel grabbed her shoulder. Are you insane? Something down there took him. You want to walk right into its arms. But before either of them could argue further, a sound cut through the stairwell. Chris's voice. Guys. Please, help me. It was faint, broken, echoing from the greenlit depths below. Mia's eyes filled with tears. That's him. He's alive. But Ethan didn't move. His expression darkened. That's not him. What are you talking about? Lena snapped. Ethan shook his head slowly. Listen carefully. That voice isn't begging us to save him. It's luring us to follow. The voice came again, closer this time. Help me, it's so dark. And underneath it, almost hidden, was another sound, something breathing, ragged and wet. Despite Ethan's warning, the group pushed forward. The stairwell ended in a set of heavy double doors, their paint flaking, rust streaking down their hinges. The green glow leaked out from the cracks around the frame. When Daniel pushed the doors open, the smell hit them fast, mold, rot, and something metallic. They stepped into what looked like an abandoned dormitory. Rows of rusty metal beds lined the room, the sheets yellowed and shredded. Old toys, broken dolls, stuffed animals with missing eyes were scattered across the floor. On the far wall, painted in something that looked disturbingly like dried blood, were the words, "The children never left." Mia covered her mouth, trying not to scream. Then, from one of the beds, came the sound of a child giggling. The blanket on the nearest bed shifted. Something was underneath it. Lena reached out with a shaking hand, pulling it back. There was no child. Just a doll. Its porcelain face cracked, its mouth curved into a wide, unnatural grin. And in Chris's broken voice, the doll whispered, "Come play with us." The doll's cracked grin seemed to widen as its porcelain finger pointed at the scorched little door. The 4 students stood frozen, the air thick with whispers crawling from the walls. "Don't open it," Ethan warned, his tone sharp, almost commanding. "Whatever's behind there, it isn't him." But Mia's eyes shimmered with tears. What if it is Chris? What if he's trapped? Daniel's hands shook, torn between fear and loyalty. Lena, though terrified, stepped forward and grabbed the rusted handle. The whispering voices behind the door grew louder, overlapping, urgent. "Come in, come in, come in." The door creaked as she pulled. It opened. A wave of cold air blasted into the room, carrying the scent of damp stone and decay. Beyond the door was not another classroom, but a narrow, brick-lined passage leading downward. Dim lanterns, ancient, flickering with unnatural flames, lit the walls. "This isn't part of the school," Daniel whispered. "It was," Ethan said grimly. "A long time ago." They stepped inside, the door slamming shut behind them with a force that shook the entire dormitory. The passage wound downward, each step echoing like a drumbeat. Their breaths came out in misty clouds, though the air was dry. Shadows seemed to move ahead of them, always just out of sight. Then the chanting returned. This time, clearer. Dozens of children's voices singing an old nursery rhyme. One by one, the lanterns lit themselves as they passed, guiding them deeper. The passage ended in a massive underground chamber. Rows of bunk beds lined the walls, smaller than the ones upstairs. The sheets were rotted away, but toys still lay scattered, wooden blocks, dolls missing limbs, tin soldiers. At the center of the room stood a long dining table. Plates of food sat untouched, bread covered in mold, bowls of soup turned to black sludge. But seated around the table were children. Or rather, what had once been children. Their bodies were pale, their eyes hollow sockets. Their mouths were sewn shut with black thread, yet their whispers filled the chamber. A dozen heads turned in unison to face the intruders. Mia let out a strangled scream. Lena grabbed her arm. "Don't move." One of the children rose from the table. Its head lolled unnaturally to the side, neck broken. And then, without opening its own lips, the voice of Chris came from its body. "Help me, please, it hurts." Mia staggered forward, a tear streaming down her face. But Ethan yanked her back violently. "That's not Chris. That's what took him." The child's head snapped back, its jaw tearing open, stitches ripping. It shrieked in Chris's exact voice, a cry of agony that rattled the walls. The rest of the children rose slowly, their movements stiff, unnatural. Their whispers merged into one terrible chant. "The children never left. The children never left. The children never left." Panicked, the group backed into a corner. That's when Daniel's foot struck something on the floor, a leather-bound book, its cover stained and brittle. He picked it up, his hands shaking. It was a journal. Flipping it open, the ink was smeared but legible. Dates stretched back to the 1940s. "The orphanage is full. The children cry at night, but the doctors say it's for their own good. They lock the doors, keep them underground during the storms. They whisper about experiments. They say the children are chosen." The final entry was scrawled in blood. "Do not let them ring the bell. If the bell tolls, the chosen must stay forever." Daniel's face went pale. An orphanage, an asylum, experiments on children. That's what this place was. They used the storms to cover their screams. As he read the last line, the toll of a bell echoed through the chamber. One deep, metallic clang that shook the walls. The children froze. Then, all at once, their heads twisted toward the students. "The bell has tolled," they whispered. "One of you must stay." The children lunged. The group bolted, sprinting back toward the passage they came from. But the door had vanished. In its place was only a wall of stone. "They're hiding us," Lena shouted, her voice ragged with terror. Another doorway opened ahead, slamming wide as if the school itself demanded they enter. With no choice, they ran through it, finding themselves in another corridor, this one lined with locked hospital doors. Faded signs hung crooked above each: isolation ward, observation, treatment. Behind the doors came faint knocking. Then banging. Then screaming. Hands, pale and skeletal, slammed against the tiny glass windows, desperate to escape. "Don't look." Ethan backed, dragging Mia forward as she sobbed. But one door burst open, and a figure stumbled out. It was a man in a torn straitjacket, his face hidden beneath a sack. Chains clattered at his wrists and ankles. He tilted his head toward them. Then he screamed, a howl so loud the corridor lights shattered. The group scattered, sprinting blindly down the hall. They collapsed into another vast chamber, panting. This one was lined with medical equipment, rusted operating tables, cabinets of shattered glass, rows of restraints bolted to the walls. At the far end stood a chalkboard. Written in white chalk, in messy childlike scroll, were the words, "We are still here. We are still waiting." And beneath it, drawn in red, were 5 stick figures. One had already been crossed out. Mia's stomach dropped. "Chris." Another line scratched itself across the board, slowly, deliberately. A second figure crossed out. They turned to see Lena's eyes roll back in her head. She let out a choked gasp and collapsed. Daniel and Mia screamed, rushing to her side, but when they tried to lift her, she was cold. Her skin turned pale, veins blackening beneath it. "No, no, no, no," Daniel cried. The chalkboard screeched. 4 left. Ethan stood rigid, his face grim. "It's happening again. Just like before." "What are you talking about?" Daniel snapped. Ethan hesitated. His voice was heavy with guilt. "My brother, years ago. He vanished here. Everyone thought he ran away, but I knew the truth. This school chooses. Every storm, it takes children. It doesn't let them live." Mia's breath caught in her throat. "And you knew this. You brought us here." "I didn't know it would happen again," Ethan said through clenched teeth. I thought if I stayed, if I came back, maybe it would take me instead. The chalkboard screeched once more. The stick figures shook violently as the words scrolled themselves. 3 must remain. The chamber shook. The children's whispers swelled around them, filling every corner. And then the bell tolled again. The last sound they heard before the lights went out was Chris's voice echoing from the shadows, broken and hollow. "One of you is already mine."